Hello, everyone, and welcome to China Watch. The Chinese economy continues to claim it is performing miracles. Official GDP growth consistently sticks to 5%, leaving the world in awe. However, the public sentiment on the ground feels like a harsh, lingering winter. This fire and ice dichotomy is described by the CCP, in their own words, not as an economic conspiracy, but as developmental tension, not as a loss of structural control, but as institutional superiority. Among the three horsemen driving the economy, exports count as one. The Sing the Bright Theory of the Economy by Cai Qi counts as another. Furthermore, the personal deployment and personal wrath of the paramount leader, Xi Jinping, have pointed the direction for economic development. With the economy supposedly recovering and trending upward, the rage economics of the faint-hearted king serves as a massive engine, boasting the highest contribution rate and undeniable merit. According to a recent report by the Wall Street Journal, Xi Jinping stated in 2020 that China would double its total economic output and per capita income by 2035. To reach this goal, China must maintain an average annual growth rate of roughly 4.7 to 5%, leaving very little room for error. By late 2024, the stakes for this goal reached a fever pitch. Provincial data remained bleak for months. Consumption was weak, house prices plummeted, and the middle class was backsliding. It looked as though the 5% growth target for the year would be missed, a failure that would be seen as a direct conflict with the 2035 vision. When the raw data reached Zhongnanhai, Xi Jinping was reportedly furious. The result was the September surprise, a sudden wave of stimulus measures, interest rate cuts, and stock market rescue operations. Although Xi Jinping holds absolute power, the entire officialdom is busy fabricating lies to coax him, reporting only good news and hiding the bad to cater to his whims. In the promotion mechanism for local officials, local GDP plays a decisive role. The anger of Xi serves as a strong warning signal of a political earthquake. Numbers produce officials, and officials produce numbers. The importance of data is directly equated to the career of an official, their black hat, local heavyweights, well versed in the philosophy of the officialdom, understand this perfectly. Consequently, faking economic data has long been a secret tip for local officials to complete their performance assessments. Even the export data the CCP is so proud of is concocted by local bureaucrats. Cai reported late last year that several shams export fraud cases have emerged across the country. With the tacit consent or even leadership of local officials, many shell companies purchased export data from customs brokers. Local governments then issued rewards based on the returned customs data, thereby creating artificial growth in local exports. As the economy continues to decline and consumption weakens, the direct impact on the financial sector is a drop in loan volumes. To fix this data flaw, the CCP financial system has resorted to creating virtual loans. Credit officers find companies to fulfill loan quotas, with the bank itself paying the interest. Surprisingly, large state-owned banks have copied the click farming, fake ordering tactics used in online shopping. According to Cai Qi, in the second half of 2025, the Central Bank of China, PBOC, inspected statistical data submitted by financial institutions and found that the Agricultural Development Bank of China, ADBC, one of the three major policy banks, had reported approximately 2 trillion yuan in agricultural loans. This fake loan amount accounted for 25% of the total agricultural loans of the ADBC. Xi Jinping was furious, leading to the arrest of Wu Biao, the former director of the Policy Research Office of the ADBC. On the evening of the 7th of February, the Central Commission for Discipline Inspection, CCDI, announced that Xu Weiding, a member of the party committee and vice president of the ADBC, was under investigation for suspected serious violations of discipline and law. Whether this is related to the fake loans remains unknown. One wonders, what exactly is the raw data mentioned in the Wall Street Journal? Do local officials have two sets of data systems, one set of authentic, objective economic data and another set of beautified data derived from paper algorithms and spreadsheets? The so-called raw data is likely already the economic indicators beautified by local officials. If Xi Jinping still found that data unbearable and flew into the rage of the dragon, it indicates just how dire the actual economic reality in China has become. The official GDP data for 2025 met the 5% target as Tsai desired. However, fake things cannot stay real forever. The GDP figures of the Statistics Bureau were slapped in the face by the revenue data of the Ministry of Finance. On the 30th of January, fiscal data released for 2025 showed that total annual revenue fell by 1.7%. This is the first negative growth in fiscal revenue in 5 years. The decline at the central level was even more significant, dropping 6.5% year-on-year over the past decade, excluding 2020 when the pandemic stalled the economy. Revenue at the central level has almost always maintained positive growth. This highly unusual phenomenon is enough to show that the economy of the CCP has reached an unprecedentedly critical juncture. On the 5th of February, BBC Chinese analyzed 3 counterintuitive phenomena in the fiscal data of last year. 1. A sharp drop in non-tax revenue. The main reason for the decline in central fiscal revenue was an 11.3% drop in non-tax revenue. The official explanation is that from 2022 to 2024, the CCP ordered specific state-owned financial institutions like the PBOC, China Tobacco, and CAIC to hand over profits to the Treasury. This inflated the non-tax revenue base. After years of bloodletting, these institutions became anemic and lacked similar surpluses to hand over in 2025. However, Lu Ting, chief China economist at Nomura Securities, pointed out that this does not tell the whole story. Data shows the December slump was reflected in both tax and non-tax revenue, with the tax slump pointing directly to a decline in corporate profits and transaction activity. 2. Income tax surged by 11.5%. Despite stagnant revenue, total tax revenue grew by only 0.8%. But personal income tax PIT jumped 11.5%. Why did PIT far exceed GDP growth? The article points to increased enforcement, or, in internet slang, the CCP intensified its pig butchering, operations against high net worth individuals. Global Taxation 2025 was the first year of global taxation for many. The CRS Common Reporting Standard now covers 150-plus countries, meaning overseas financial info is automatically reported back to China, forcing hidden offshore income to be taxed to platform regulation. For the first time, internet platforms provided full tax data to authorities. E-commerce and live streaming were brought under full supervision, leading to a wave of back tax payments. 3. Local revenue rose, while land finances collapsed. This is the most deceptive. Local general public budget revenue grew by 2.4%, seemingly better than the negative growth of the central government. But this masks the collapse of land finance. In 2025, revenue from state-owned land sales was only 4.15 trillion yuan, down 14.7% year-on-year. Compared to the 2021 peak of 8.7 trillion, it has been halved. For 20 years, local governments survived by selling land to fund infrastructure, to drive up house prices, to sell more land. With the real estate market in deep decay, this engine has stalled. So where did the 2.4% growth come from? Localities are now auctioning off anything they can: office buildings, the operating rights of government canteens, roadside parking concessions, and even the long-term revenue rights of tourist attractions. These are counted as non-tax revenue to fill the gap. Remember the case in Cai Qi. In 2025, a pile of mud in 2 reservoirs was sold from the left hand of the government to its right hand for 800 million yuan. The final silt ended up as a bad debt on the ledger of a bank, and the public will ultimately pay the bill. The so-called invigorating state-owned assets is simply consuming resources of tomorrow today. Hubei province even promoted a capital operation model of securitizing and leveraging all state assets. The CCP has once again financialized and legalized scamming. While they preach living tight days, their hands are busy tightening the belts around the necks of ordinary people. The ultimate solution for the CCP debt is printing money and increasing taxes. The rich and the poor will struggle together in common poverty. That is it for this episode. Please subscribe and like the video.